Sometimes you need a fast, fun and simple game to take your mind off of things, and few things sound more fast, fun and simple than directing a guerrilla-based massacre through crowded population centers. For the gorilla, at least. But surely no such game exists. Well friend, let's take a look at Ape Out. Ape Out is a top-down beat-em-up that puts you in control of a gorilla that has to fight its way out of captivity, or ape out in other words. That's really as simple as it is. Each world or disc features a different situation to escape from, ranging from science labs with winding hallways and high-rise office buildings, to a cargo ship littered with shipping containers, and there's little narrative to explain how or why the gorilla gets into these situations, and even less narrative tissue linking one disc to another in most cases. But fuck you! Narrative is for nerds. Ape Out is all about getting from point A to point B by killing everyone in your path, and the game is nothing if not satisfying to play. You get three basic controls. You can run, you can grab, and you can shove, and the game makes really good use of these mechanics. The gorilla itself feels fast and loose to control, and shoving enemies against walls to turn them into bloody smears is quick and brutal if a little shallow. Where the game shows some depth is in its grab mechanic. You can be boring and grab certain doors and use them as shields, or do the same to the people in your way, but more important than their ability to absorb bullets is their ability to shoot them. Practically every person you'll come across carries a gun, and after grabbing a meat shield, they'll let off a shot in surprise. There's a really specific timing between the grab and shots fired, so you can turn people's weapons against their friends for some really satisfying kills. Working out which enemies have the most useful weapons for dealing with crowds or armored enemies is about as deep as Ape Out's gameplay goes, but the different enemy types and stage-specific gimmicks go a long way in keeping this relatively simple gameplay entertaining. Armored enemies aren't as easy to push as smaller enemies, so to kill them you'll either have to get them shot multiple times or make sure there's a wall close behind them when you shove them. Enemies with sniper rifles do a lot of damage, but have to aim at you significantly longer before they can take a shot. One stage is full of flammable barrels and flamethrower-equipped soldiers, giving you either an explosive weapon to take advantage of or deadly traps to avoid. I think Ape Out's level gimmicks are really fantastic at not only keeping the gameplay fresh, but also making each disc feel distinct from the last one. The tight passages and heavy steel blast doors in the lab are a stark contrast to the high-rise office, which features glass windows that you can throw people through, and staircases that emphasize your downward escape, as opposed to most levels' continuous race from one side to the other. It also helps that each level is visually distinct, and the game as a whole features a striking Soul Bass-esque art style full of bright solid colors and angular geometric shapes. The only aspect of the game's art that isn't super jagged are effects like explosions and blood splatter, and the game never goes very long without changing up its color scheme drastically. Usually this is to illustrate something like a blackout or alarms going off, and Ape Out's excellent use of contrasting colors stands out for its entirety, though the odd instance of flashing lights and colors can get to be a bit much at times. I never got sick of Ape Out's soundtrack though. I mean, how often do you get a game that features only jazz percussion until the credits hit? Not only that, but the soundtrack is dynamic, only kicking in when the action begins, and each shove or gunshot is like musical punctuation, usually adding a loud crash of cymbals to the track with each action. Now, if jazz percussion is not your thing, I doubt this will change your mind, and the lack of much other sound beyond windows shattering or little environmental noises might get old for someone who isn't me, but I think it's a really cool idea. What's less cool is the fact that the game is barely a couple of hours long. There is a harder mode that you can use on any level once you've beaten it, but that's kind of it. Ape Out features 4 discs with 2 sides each, and each side has about 4 tracks or so, but unless you're just straight up bad at the game, it'll take maybe just over an hour and a half to beat once. The core mechanics are satisfying enough that I can see myself returning to it for a quick 10-minute play session every once in a while, but the game just doesn't have a lot to offer beyond that. Ape Out is good. The only thing that stops me from rating it higher is its abysmal runtime, because I love everything else about it. Ape Out's art is simple and eye-catching, its dynamic soundtrack is unique and exciting, and the gameplay, despite its simplicity, never gets old. You could argue that this is because the game doesn't overstay its welcome, and while I agree with that sentiment to some degree, Ape Out's runtime is such a letdown. I'd encourage you to check the game out if you can get it on sale, but just know that it's not a very long game when you go in.